Good morning. It is 10:33, close enough to 10:30 a.m. It is Sunday, and that means it is time for Sunday Club, which is a weekly live stream where each week we take a look at some Ruby on Rails live streaming, and specifically we are building an app together. Previously, we have built an app, or certainly played around an app that worked with the YouTube and Twitch APIs. More of that in a second. And right now we are looking at building an events ticketing and registration application, which is pretty exciting. We're going to go diving around in that today. Let's do some follow-up. Let's dive straight into some follow-up, and let's bring up browser window. Hang on a second. I'm just gonna go to this YouTube channel in Chrome and bring that up. Bear with me just a second. So this week, what did I do? I actually finally got round to, because I told you last week that I had some time off work, and you will now see that the channel has thumbnails, actual thumbnails. And if you hover over these little things, then you will see me talking like YouTube does. Cool. Oh, they all start with the intro. That's interesting. So I also posted about the channel on Reddit, which people have been reminding me to do. So thank you to everyone who commented on that, and the people that have reached out subsequently. So there is a YouTube video missing. So basically I did a live stream and YouTube for some reason didn't save it. I'm not sure 100% what happened there, but there is one missing from 2 weeks ago, and I don't have it. Basically, I don't set Streamlabs to record. So if you are interested, or if you reach out to me, I'll probably link you to this part of this video. But basically the one from 2 weeks ago, which we were, I think is when we were reviewing like Meetup and Eventbrite and things like that. I think that's gone. So I don't have any way to get that back. So that's kind of lost to the sands of time, which is fair enough. But other than that, if you're looking for any of the archive stuff, hopefully it's a little bit easier to find now that there's thumbnails on the videos rather than just using the titles. Some of these have better descriptions. I modified some of the descriptions on the videos. I didn't put chapters on all of them because frankly it would just take too long, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to that. If anyone else wants to do that, feel free. I know it's super helpful for people because they tell me, but it just takes too long. And apparently YouTube are going to be doing automatic chapters. I don't know if there's enough variation in the content on these streams for them to actually get to be able to do the automated ones, but I got a little email from them and they were like, hey, if we think we can put automated chapter sections on this, then we will. And I was like, okay, cool. So I ticked the little box that said they could do that, and let's see how they get on. The only other thing I would say is that I got 2 bits of feedback that I should mention the Twitch channel more, and people ask about that. So I will add it to the default description of the YouTube videos, and I will also go back and add a link to the Twitch channel to these YouTube videos. Anyone who watched the Twitch integration series, that's these 3 videos here, will know that I do not know a lot about Twitch, and I'm still kind of learning. I actually use it. I watch a couple of things on there every once in a while. I have the app and watch it, but I don't understand a lot about the creator side of it. I will try and do better to promote that. I'm not 100% sure how to do that, but if anyone has any tips, then just reach out. So that's some follow up from last week, where I actually did some stuff up for the channel, which I was pretty happy about because I always say I'm going to do it and then don't actually get around to. So I'm just going to pull up our terminal and we're going to jump straight back in because that's more interesting. Let's just jump straight back into it. Let's get on with making some decisions about our app. So last week we got a little bit bogged down in view component, which is fine because that was absolutely interesting and useful and things like that. But what we were actually trying to accomplish was to like do the prototyping so that we could work out the modeling for our application. I'll do a summary in a second, but I got caught up in actually getting view component working and working out how to do a bunch of that stuff. Hopefully we can go a bit less down that rabbit hole and just use the tool rather than get a bit bogged down in how the hell the tool works and how to get it working. So let's see. Let's just collapse everything down. Bump the font size up for the stream. Let's get the editor there. Okay, sorry, I'm just getting everything set up, and then we should be able to go to here. Great. Okay, cool. So this was our primary navigation and kind of sub-secondary navigation from Tailwind that we had grabbed as a freebie, and then this was us starting to implement View Component. And the idea here was if we use View Component and actually take the time to get it set up last week, we could potentially, even if we don't like the way that they visually appear, we could start to have components we could actually drag into a real app, because what we're doing at the moment is just a prototype application. So let's get VS Code back up and running. Okay, so is there anything in here that we, like, what have we actually got that's changed? Let's see what we've got. So we made this, make this nice and wide. So we made this admin event list item, event list component. And again, the kind of admin of it all is fairly useless because we're doing the admin UI prototype. So you could assume that. But then if you're going to potentially import these into a place where there isn't admin, would these be namespaced? Would they have admin in the name of the component? All the usual kind of questions that you'd ask. And then we have admin event list item component, which is an individual event listed in there. In our controller, what did we do? Oh, this is just setting up. Okay, so that's just setting up an admin controller, which is presumably just so we could have a root. Yep, with some URLs in it. So we had events. Yep, okay, fine. This is a test for a component that must have been generated by their generator because it's got mini test in it and I could never remember any of that syntax. Then we got, right, okay, so yep, then last week we got down to how do we get our CSS running as sidecar. Yep, so, yeah, that's it. Okay, so we can actually put the view component template, the view component Ruby file, and the view component Sass file together, and then we told Webpack to go and search the components directory for any Sass files and include those. And then at the end, right, okay, and then here we were saying, right, well, you could also then have a generic style sheet that had classes that weren't attached to a specific component, and that's what this is. So this was right at the end, I think. So we then had admin entity list, which is just basically like force this to be 500 wide, when in fact you would probably just want components all the way down. Like you could have a component that's just constrained the width of other components, I would imagine. Mainly so that you're not mixing global styles with component styles, and you force everyone to use the same components rather than having to use the same CSS classes. I would assume, again, I haven't used view component like in a production application, so I don't, if anyone has like best practices for that. And again, we could go and take a look through the view component repo and see if they link out to anything, or find repos that use it and see how they use it, but I'm not too fussed about that right now because we're just prototyping. Cool, I think that's everything in there. Do we need to commit any of this right now? Because I think we committed... Yeah, we committed the work to get the sidecar stuff running. But other than that, this was all just working out what we could do. Okay, so I think we're good on the getting view component to spit code out. That was what took up most of our time last week. So let's get into the kind of the modeling decisions of it all then. So what I really wanted to, I was giving some thought while I was doing all the thumbnails, I was giving some thought to the actual specifics of the type of event application we want to do. And we went through Meetup, which was, where is my original note? So for anyone who wasn't watching the original stream, let me just bring that note up. Let me just see, okay. I make 1 million notes files all the time, so I just need to see where this one is. Here, I think. Yeah, great. Okay, so this was the file we were originally working on. And these are the things I still think I'm thinking about, which is ticket purchasing versus registering interest, which is kind of where we looked at Meetup versus something like Eventbrite or something like that. Like there are two kind of core or two kind of transactions you can ask the user to make, like, hey, I'm thinking of coming to this, and then versus like, hey, I'm actually buying a ticket, and those things. Physical versus virtual, individual versus group versus team, one of them recurring, one location versus multi-location, ticket types versus simple tickets, and allocation limits per ticket type. These were just the very rough kind of ideas that I was thinking of, paid versus free, online and offline purchases. So we could build a register your interest for a simple event, and we could build a register your group for a group event. I think this is, I think this was where I was originally going to head with this prototype, but I think this is the one I'm actually the most interested in on a personal level. And it's because I think this is the hardest part, because I was talking to someone about this, and we were talking about teams versus groups, and that terminology, because Meetup again has groups. So if you remember, I think that stream is actually the one missing from the archive, which is a bit annoying. But in Meetup.com, you have groups which are it might be like a local interest group. So the Ipswich Book Club, for example, could be a group, and then you could have Ipswich software developers as another group, two groups, and then each group has events. Well, let's say that you wanna that group wants to run an event where you arrive in threes and you have to sit at the appropriate table. Well, in a lot of event software, that's called a group. Like, you register your group or your team or something like that. So you would have a group running an event that supported groups, which makes very confusing language for the actual attendees of the event. So I was like, that's really interesting, because this idea of allowing teams to register for something, as I mentioned when we were working on events for like good causes and things like that, getting people to do things together and grouping them somehow is really like a really cool modeling problem to think about. So there were a few things around that, and this is all leading back to how we're going to represent this in a user interface. So let's say that let's say you've got a few different scenarios. Let's just write these in here. So let's call them attendees for now. So attendees already know their groups. So this is before, this is like when, I'll just do this as a bullet list. So when they're registering, which is like buying a ticket, maybe. Buying tickets, because there'd be groups. Buying tickets, yeah. Attendees already know their groups. Groups are predefined by the organizer. Attendees can join an existing group. Like, there are loads more of these scenarios, but what I'm trying to get across is that if you think all of that through, that's a really interesting modeling problem. So let's say you've got a charity ball, and there's tables of 10 people. Well, you could call that like a group event, so that people are sometimes booking because they all want to sit on the same table. So you could do it where they're buying a ticket, and in the kind of form that they fill in, they could select their table number or something like that, or maybe you give each table a name and they have to know the name of the table. But basically, you're placing the burden on the person attending to know which one they're supposed to join, or you do the work as an organizer to patch them all up afterwards. What you can do is get what Eventbrite has, I think, is that you can basically define a group. So you might be like table 1, or Max's table or something, and then you name your group, and then when another person, so you then buy 3 tickets, so there's 7 left on the table. When the next person turns up, they can look at a list of existing groups or teams or whatever you want to call them, and they say, oh yeah, I want to join Max's table, and then they can buy one of the tickets that's remaining from that pool. But like, think of how complex that is, because you've got, okay, well, are you constraining the numbers per group? you know, like how uh, how are you? Is it okay that people can see the names of the other groups, or do you have to have something where there's like a code where they get the first person to create the group has a code or a link that they send to the other members, or the organizer pre-does all of the groups or tables or whatever you're calling them, and then sends out the link to the people they know are going to buy, but then that doesn't let people ad hoc purchase. Yeah, just super interesting user experience problems all the way down. And so that's why I think I'm most interested in this one. And the other reason I'm really interested in trying to do this in the admin UI is what happens if the teams was really interesting. So an example of that is like a big charity walk where you are registering with your 3 people, but 3 people might be part of a team of 10. And so you're selling 3 tickets for that team. But what we would do is also support the fundraising, which I'm interested in including here. But they would want to fundraise in a group of 10, but only buy tickets in groups of 3s. Like all of that fun stuff had to exist in a user interface somewhere that made some sense and is super difficult to do because, again, you can't assume that the attendee or the person buying the ticket has any concept of your domain modeling. Like that doesn't make any sense to them. They have to approach things from their starting point, which is I want to attend this thing with my 2 friends. That's all I know. And then you're also got another burden of awareness, which is the event organizer knowing how they want people to book in advance, which, as I mentioned in one of the really early streams about this specific type of software, is that very often the people organizing it won't, from my experience, the people organizing it won't always have really early on when they're actually setting up the event all of the details of how things are going to work. They know the date. They know that they need to start getting initial early bird tickets up and listed and things like that. But they might not yet know all of the other details. And things are very fluid in that sense. So that's really, again, you're placing a burden upon them to know your modeling as well. So you have to make that really good in the admin area and maybe allow them to change their modeling for their event easily or make it very clear what they're locking themselves into. So let's dive in. I'm just going to check that the stream is running. Okay, cool. Well, let's with that in mind, let's so we've got a list of events. And then if I click on one, okay, view, so then we had event, and this is all this Tailwind stuff for I think with the sidecar assets, I think we can kind of avoid Tailwind for a bit longer. So is this subbar on every page? Yes, that wouldn't need to be there, would it? So we could, let's start by moving this. So it must be in the layout, I guess. Yeah, okay. Oh, and this is where there's like a mobile one as well. So we have to make sure we move both of them. Mobile menu. Cool, it must be this one here, this second one. I'm hoping. I think this is the secondary nav. But we don't actually want that on all of the pages, I don't think. Maybe. Because you haven't chosen where you're going. And we could put it on. We could definitely put it on event. Let's do something where we chuck it on here. How does that feel? Which is the advantage of prototyping. We can just chuck stuff around. So we can be, oh, I really want to add, oh, here we go. So events, we could have no secondary navigation at all, and you're just viewing a list or something like that. Then you click into your event and suddenly this appears. Or it could be contextual where this is always present, but just changes content. Let's kind of stick with this because we don't care what's on events at the moment. So in here we can overview attendees. So let's jump into this. We have, just gonna make these a bit readable without having to scroll left and right. Bear with me just a second. Okay, cool. Do you think the lag on when I press save here and press refresh here, I think the lag there might be, I haven't had that before. I think that might be Tailwind rather than I wonder if we pull Tailwind out and just use these kind of components with the assets there. I wonder if that might speed up. Might be worth checking out. Okay, so attendees. Project thing was already there. So this is one of those. Oh, I wonder if we could bear with me. I was wondering if we can go and take a look at how this happens elsewhere. I think I might have a couple of Eventbrite accounts. We can take a look at how they do it. So I'm just on the other screen. Bear with me just a second. I'm just on the other monitor. I don't have. Oh, you know what I should do is set up a dumb email address. Oh, I can totally do that. I have a Sunday Club thing, don't I? Okay, so let's do. Hang on, I'm just going to try and sign up for a Sunday Club for an Eventbrite account. I do have. I do have a Sunday Club email, but I never used it. But I think it's connected to my phone, so we can just find out. This will work. Create account. Agree. Okay. Trust this Eventbrite. Sunday Club. Save login. Okay, cool. Okay, right. So let's drag this onto this screen. Okay, sorry about that. I was just typing it on the other screen. So tell us what you love. So we've been through the meetup one. I think again, maybe we had been through the meetup one, and it was like same thing. Like tell us the subject, had like cool photos and stuff like that. So let's say that I love food. Music. I do like music. I'm just where's technology? We could put. Okay. Well, I love food. Food will do. Mention Ipswich, that's where I live. There are no event organizers in your areas. Okay, well, we'll figure that out later. I just have great create an event. So what I'm interested specifically is in the. Okay, cool. So this is helping feed Eventbrite's who are our users database. So let's skip that one because we're not too fast. You've unlocked our professional features. Nice. Okay, so basic information, that's cool. Location, date, and time. Okay, so we're going to call this test event. Bump the font size up to make it a bit readable on the stream, hopefully. Name your event until the event goes well as you come. This is all pretty normal stuff. So we could get me Sunday Club. We're totally going to hold some real events, I think. So we this is single versus recurring. If you remember our note from earlier, we had single versus recurring on here somewhere. One-off versus recurring versus series. That's a fun one. And then we also had one location versus multiple locations. Online event. This is going to be an online event. No, let's do a real event because then Where could something be in Ipswich? It could be at like the what do we have, like, is it called the Town Hall building? There we go, Town Hall. Oh, that didn't work. Wait, what? Town Hall Ipswich? Okay, it didn't work. Okay, that's fine. So these are all mandatory. Well, it's got United States, but it knows I'm in Ipswich. Okay. These are all on a product team's backlog somewhere to fix stuff like that. It's like, oh, we know he's in Ipswich, so we should put the country correctly. So let's just put test venue. 1, 2, 3 Main Street, Ipswich, because that is where. And okay. Choose state. Something, and it could be IP or where's the postcode that I know? That's a real. Why does it keep taking me back to the US? What's happening? Why doesn't it let me be where I am? What's happening here? Oh my god, that's a cool bug. What's going on? Okay, I don't really want to go down a whole rabbit hole, although that's a super interesting bug to find. I just want to pick a place near me. Look, it keeps going back. What's happening? Okay. Fine. 90210. That's the only zip code I know in the US. That'll do. Single, blah, blah, blah. Same, continue. Okay, fine. Event, description, all cool stuff. Tickets. Paid free donation. Settings. Tickets per order. Here we go. So this is. How many you can order. Okay. Where's like ticket types and things like that? Do you have to set the thing up initially to do that? So if they're $10, there are 1,000 people can come. Let's not put 1,000 people because I don't want. Let's put 100. Sales start date and time now. That's fine. Visible maximum quantity. So that's the number of tickets any one individual can buy. Okay. In the UK. For some reason it didn't believe me earlier. Okay. Okay. So there's nothing for groups in the initial setup. Okay. Order options, order form, order collections, wait list, marketing manager attendees, guest lists. Okay. Let me literally Google this. Group registration lets attendees join groups for your event. Group registration isn't required for attendees to buy groups of tickets. Best for team events. Go to order form and select activate group registration. Go to order form. Right. Okay. So this is the kind of key. This is a key one that we had in the last app, which is, do we care about buying the person booking or each attendee? And like I said previously, one of the things with group information is like for good causes, we had a lot of things around like we need health and safety stuff, dietary information, anything with risk attached to it. It was very important that each attendee, the data was provided for each attendee, and that essentially like some events mandated that we actually had an email address per attendee, so that negated like children and people below a certain age for GDPR reasons. And it was like, oh, we actually have to get them to check that information. So it's like, yes, I don't have a peanut allergy, or yes, I have a peanut allergy or something like that, or I have a medical condition, whatever it is. And also that data is then owned by the person who is having the ticket purchased for them, because GDPR is like super important for everyone, but also really for good causes especially. To activate group registration, you must click the information you specified above for each attendee. Do you want to continue and update the setting? Yes, I do. So maybe we could just build the application where this is like, so there, maybe we could build it that just does group registrations. Maybe we just like specialize it in that way. Okay, so this is one of the things I was like interested for. So in here, in our application, it's here, we just written groups. Okay, but in here immediately, we are dealing with what do we call these groups. And so they're groups, teams, organization, companies, and associations. I bet this still doesn't cover what people need. People will call them like specific words. It could be, cohorts or something, something like that. And I wonder if this, so we want to put team, and I bet organization is confusing because like if you're already part of an organization within Eventbrite, let's put team. I wonder if that wording actually changed in the admin area. Maximum attendees per group, we're going to say 5. Enable group registration by ticket type. So this is, okay, that's a good thing to know. So we want group registration per ticket type. And so what we're basically saying there is we might have early bird tickets and then normal tickets, general admission, or like super fancy tickets or something like that. They're twice the price. Maybe you can only register for groups as some of them. Maybe there's like a fun run and teams can take part, but they have to buy a special team ticket or something like that. You could do. So let's do group page headline. Okay, right. So this is super interesting. Does each group get a page by default? That's what we want to find out. So this is a test team page for Sunday. Cool. Group passwords and group preferred group start times. Allow groups to select a preferred start time. A start time for when tickets go on sale, or a start time for the event? Not sure. Let's just click save. I noticed how I said we were prototyping our own admin user interface, but I've spent all the time in someone else's admin user interface. I don't have any problem with that. Let's go and see how someone else does it first, because they've spent years and millions of dollars developing their admin interface. So let's go and see how they do it. There must be some good stuff in here. We collect email address first time payment by default. So that's all done. So group registration. But if you look at this, like look at, sorry, let me just zoom back out. Like if you look at this admin UI, it's really dense. And even the process we've just gone through, like you really, if you are organizing an event and running anything other than like, hey, buy a ticket or buy multiples, there are so many complexities that you basically have to have like an admin interface like this. I don't know about have to have, but like most of the time you're trying to simplify it. So there's like 6 buttons and they, just click on the one that's most appropriate to them. We're really trying to simplify things a lot of times to really abstract away the complexity from an admin where possible. You maybe on something like Facebook, you have really complex privacy controls where you can go really granular, but you might have 3 default settings, which is like public, something and then it's completely private, and the one in the middle is like configures a bunch of the settings. But then they can go granular if they want to. But notice on here, like once we got past these initial 4, these are pretty straightforward. And as soon as you go into the actual order forms, everything's just a wall of text and nested forms and things like that. Like there's nothing graphic to help us or anything like that. You're just kind of doing it at this point. And I don't think that's because Eventbrite aren't good at this. Like I think that only a very small percentage of the events will care about this stuff, and they'll care enough to really dive in and have a really good idea of how they want to run it. But I think that you could be easily put off by trying to do something more complex and then diving in and being like, I don't know. I don't know the answers to a lot of these questions, and that's a red flag for me as an organizer. I think that's probably a good place to put them as well, so they know that they're like, oh, I have to answer all these questions. Okay, so we've got our group registration set up. Start for the registration page, registration options. This all seems fine. Don't allow attendees to edit information after registration. Registration time limit, save. Okay, I think I'm saving all of this. I think we're all good. Is you going to bring me back here? Yeah, okay, great. So can we now try and buy our tickets? Or can we see the... Oh, here we go, preview. And can we see the admin area for this without... Or is this the admin area for this event now? Dashboard, yeah, I think it might be. Cool, okay. Tickets. Great, I want to get tickets as an individual, as a team member. Okay, so it's way easier. Great, so here's our dashboardy thing. Again, like really dense. Again, not bad. I've zoomed out just so that we can get a picture of this. Not a bad thing. There's a lot of information for organizers. And I'm guessing that Eventbrite is really geared to people who pump out events. Like if you're doing the odd casual thing, you probably don't make Eventbrite a lot of money, but I'm guessing a lot of people who use Eventbrite make like big events and do fancy stuff. I want to get tickets as an individual. So did we sell individual tickets and our group tickets? Can I make it so I can't buy individual tickets? These are my 100. Order options, order form. What happens if I don't want people to be able to buy as an individual? The team registration. I didn't see a way to block that. Team registrants only. Okay, yep, I totally did see that. I just didn't realize. Let's do that. Refresh. Yeah, another thing to deal with is like change. I wonder if when we publish the event, we'll get locks on changing it. So if people are halfway through the ticket purchasing process and you as an organizer go in and change the stuff in the admin UI, they're halfway through. So presumably those settings are passed into that processing because you presumably have to let the purchaser finish that ticket. You changed it while they were purchasing, but that's not their fault. So yeah, there must have to be guards around that. Right, okay, so now we enter your team name or create your team. So can we have a predefined list of teams? Just jumping back and forth between. Do not display registrants on group page. So that again, that's more privacy stuff. You might change that again if you're more privacy concerned. You might make that ticked by default, and have them opt into showing the group registrants. Allow group manager to password protect their group. So on here, this group doesn't exist. Okay. So again, group and team getting mixed in the kind of wording. So I have to create my team. Is there any way for me to create Teams first. Customize your group registration. Select ticket types. Group page. Group managers will be able to change this messaging from their Eventbrite account. So who's a group manager? Group registration isn't required to let attendees buy tickets for their friends or family. You want to set up group tickets, follow these steps instead. Yeah, so group registration isn't required for attendees to buy groups of tickets. Like, this is for team events, yeah. So, but we can't define the team's attendees. So let's create your team. So we have to create a team first. We're going to be, but that alone could be a differentiator. We could say, allow the organizer to define the teams in advance, and not let people create their own. Because people have a tendency. Your team is set now. You can get tickets. Please note you won't be able to collect your tickets until your event is published. Now we've got a team here. So now if we go back to this and try and buy tickets, join the team, Max's team comes up. So again, we have to know the team's name beforehand. So our group manager, which I assume is now, who is the group manager? Hasn't been published. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna see how they handle that group manager. Oops. The group manager can edit group details, set a password, and communicate with group members. Go to tickets in your event project get started. Change to individual registration to transfer to another group. Cancel your registration. Request a refund for the event. If you are the group manager, you won't be able to make someone else group manager when you leave. There's also not a way to delete a group. Instead, set a password for your group and any email existing group members to let them know the group is no longer active. Encourage your existing group members to change teams or transfer to a new group when you aren't the group manager. So does do I, as the event organizer, get access to those groups? Like, I want to move people between the groups. I don't want people to manage their own groups. I want to be in charge of that. Where's that stuff? Let's go find that cool stuff. And again, this is again, we're looking through Eventbrite stuff. We're going to try and lift those out. Promo codes, settings. Again, I'm just going to Eventbrite organizer, manage groups. Registration transfers, maybe? Yeah, there's a lot going on here. This is why I find this kind of, as a modeling exercise, really interesting. But I don't think I control these groups in any way as the event organizer. I have to put together like a real, maybe that could be my homework for this week, is actually put together a real group event just so that I have an event to practice on. I can't see anything where I can do that. Form order confirmation. This is just the settings for all of them. So can I go through to like the attendees section, or what do they call them, people, or even though I haven't got any sales yet? No, okay. Manage attendees. Oh, here we go. Yeah. No, just they're all guest lists, orders, add attendees, attendee lists, name badges, and check-in. Well, if we make the event free, can we just then publish it? Right. And then next, publish the event. Cool. Okay. And then we can refresh this. It should be free. Register. Max's team still there? Yep. Continue. Start. Fine, I'm registering for my own event, but I'm also the organizer and the attendee. Great, cool. Now when I come to manage attendee orders, I should see myself, basically. Can I see what team I'm in? Yes. No. Edit attendee info. Okay, interesting. So I don't get any access to the team information, the group information on the organizer side. But as an attendee, this is something we spoke about last time. So now I actually have tickets and I have events. So I also have a ticket to this, but I'm also the group admin for this team, I assume. So now I have this team. And this is Max's team. Join our team. This is a test team page for Sunday Club, which we had earlier. I'm the team captain. I can invite team members. Amazing. And invite people to it, but the organizer can't. Okay, interesting. So the group and team aspect is at the individual level. So event organizer, see teams, groups. How do group registrations appear in reporting? Here we go. And 404s. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so that's a really specific choice. So they actually don't add attendees. So can I add an attendee to a team through here? Oh, interesting. Okay, so now I want to add one person. Oh, interesting. So it doesn't ask me for them to join a team. So let's say I add Jane Smith, and she can be and that's the same. Okay. And then we're going to register this person. So what group are they in? Because remember we ticked don't allow non-group tickets, but I guess because we're doing the admin area, that's fine. So now we have Jane Smith's order. Okay, so there's no group registration within the admin interface. Okay, so let's jump over to the admin interface and build what we think might work for that. So let's say that we have got some settings in our UI. So let's actually put in the ability to do settings for ours. And I think it might be cool to actually take a look at what the settings menu could be. So let's add in that as well. So admin event, settings to admin, settings. Let's do event underscore settings. And then in here, we can just do a file called cool. And then if we add in here, we can make this a link to, again, we're just hard coding stuff just because it's a prototype. We don't really care too much. Or in Chrome, aren't we? Now we have settings. We can click through /event/settings. Admin event settings. Whoops. Great. So then that one also needs. Oh no, we need to put event nav. I know that that can be a view component, all that fun stuff, but let's just chuck this in a partial for now. And that can go on the event. Oh wait, is it render? No, is render the one from... SDRB off the end of that one. Is it render? Or is that from view component, or is it both? Okay, I think it's both. Cool. Okay, I definitely remember that. So now we've got that, and then in here, didn't we have this blob at the top? So so settings can go there, and then if we have overview, take us back to admin event, and we can toggle between those two. Okay. And then in the event itself, which we probably wouldn't have a settings. So if we go back here, we can see that all of this is basically settings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 high level ones. Can we open them each up? Yeah, okay. I mean, they're not all settings, but you know what I mean? Like they are. These ones certainly were here. These ones seem to be as well. It's interesting that you can always get to this 1, 2, 3, 4 nav. Publish. Like it's your onboarding, but it never goes away. Why has details not got a tick? Is it because we didn't fill in all mandatory information on there? Okay, so now it's got a tick. Anyone with the link? Okay. So now it's kind of private enough. Cool. Okay. So we've got overview, attendees, groups, and what are the most important high levels. So you could differentiate. They've put everything under manage attendees as that's like everything that you would do once the event is on. Once you've started selling tickets, you're going to spend most of your time in manage attendees and marketing, I would assume. Although even in marketing, those are configs for stuff that you're then going to push out. So you're only going to come in here and grab. Oh, is this like can you run your Facebook ads in here like you can in MailChimp? Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty wild. I think my ad blocker might be. Oh, no, I haven't got my ad blocker turned on because I've only just put this on. This is just not working. So MailChimp does this as well, where you can actually build your Facebook campaigns in their tool. I'm presuming either that's like a proprietary thing or Facebook's ad API lets you do that. Okay, so maybe you would spend time in this on a day-to-day basis. So once you've done these 4 and they're ticked, you're kind of done, but they remain the highest priority things. If I just go into my Eventbrite account and I go manage my events, where does it actually take me? List of my events. Okay, great. Again, you're inside organizations, but one of the wording for groups was organizations. So that's going to be tricky as well. We go into here. Is this all responsive, by the way, just out of curiosity? Yeah, cool. Yeah, props to their, oh, do they? Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. So if you look at like, they start with column headers for the price and everything then collapses down. So there's no column headers on mobile. And then suddenly you've got a full table of information. So that's a really good way to, cool way to deal with like responsive tables, is just make it a table. And then as there's no room to show it horizontally, collapse all the information down and then show it. That you can only kind of get away with that if you've got a reasonable amount of information. If you had 50 columns, that gets really tricky. But if you had 50 columns, you've probably got bigger problems. Okay, so we're going to go in. Takes us to our dashboard. Okay, so then, okay, so it does imply there is like a line there, and it does imply that like these are all ticked and everything down here is what you care about from now on. So when we click into the event, and so we've got overview, which is dashboard, something like that. Again, these could almost live in settings because you're only coming back to them. Again, I wonder if they're there because they're actually what people tweak the most. They actually just come back for simple events. They just come back to change the wording or something. Like, hey, we need to add a link in here or something like that. Is this a block editor? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so my instinct would be to bring the attendees up because that is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time, and have all of this under settings, which I think is what we did previously. And I think it would be interesting to see how often people are coming in and having to change something about the event, and actually they end up living more in these first 4 areas rather than these. In my mind, once you've got these 4 up and running, you're probably living in here. People calling say, "Hey, I need a refund" or something like that. So they don't need to be persistent. But this again goes back to this idea of this left nav being constantly persistent probably makes it less of an issue because they then they've got more room for the hierarchy. So here, for example, now that's gone, it's a toggle over. Whereas if we did, so let's say we lifted what they've got onto our horizontal nav, we had this is event now, so we got attendees. Let's just make a bunch of these. So what were they? It's order options again? That is just more settings. Let's do them in here anyway. So they've got order options, marketing, manage attendees, marketing, manage attendees, reports, apps, and privacy settings. And again, maybe apps is like a bigger deal for a larger. And then privacy settings was the last one. So let's see where that gets us with how much screen real estate we've got. That's actually not that bad. Because that's, I mean, that even gets us there with settings. So you could collapse down to there and still have an accordion style menu like this. So you could have a hover state that collapses down. So you hover over privacy settings, for example. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting one. So what do we care about in ours? So, okay. We're happy, I think, so it doesn't yeah, the default one here does collapse down to a stack like this, so you could then just make it an accordion on mobile as well. Oh, you have got to deal with that nonsense. Which is having those stupid words wrap, which you can get around, that's all fine. And it would have to collapse. Yeah, okay, because you've got a really wide one there. And so you would need it to collapse down. So maybe as you go down, either you get a little more option on the left as individual ones go off the viewport, or you make it the whole thing stack really early and end up having to toggle it on and off there. But you would probably want them both to go at the same time, the highest level nav and the bottom level nav. Or you do go for that persistent left-hand side. And so when I did this previously, we had the persistent left, but we didn't fix it to the left-hand side. We did it with a constrained width and gave that, just gave that side up. But we did it all the way. So the top level nav was your high level nav, so you could actually get to other resources. So let's say that we want to then change, like go to a person here. At the moment, we've got 2 levels of hierarchy on the screen. What we did is had like, groups, people, event numbers, like other things, fundraising pages and stuff. That was a high level, and that was persistent down the left. What I think we could do is keep this for super high level stuff and then immediately go to a left-hand nav for the second layer, which they've sort of done here with this one. But that's really, really high level. Like, I might go and do my own tickets and things like that. But to actually get back to my events, there's no events tab up here. There is no way in the higher level nav to get back. This has essentially become hierarchical, with this being take me back up a level. So managing my events gets me back up. Yeah, I can leave. To this, where all all sub navigation is removed. This is simply the lists, but we do now have our super high level stuff here. So these are across all events. So that's events, which gives us our list. This was people, or this is orders, but it's the same thing. Like, and this is presumably across all of my events. So these are the ultimate high level. Then when I go into events, I then have to go into an event before I then get given any type of navigation here. And then, but I can't from here, as much as I can see, get to all orders. Like now I've gone down that path. I've gone down like the events path, which is fair enough. So we could do, so we were talking about having groups within, right, okay, so that's how they're getting around that. You only get this very high level nav when you're at the highest level, and then that literally disappears. So if I click into an order, that must stick around. But if I go into this event, they even change tab, and then that must go away. Yep, okay, fair enough. Cool. So this is, again, I'm hoping this is useful for people. Feel free to feedback. Some people have mentioned they found it useful, but like dissecting the kind of hierarchical choices and how their modeling has affected the UI, I like find super useful to think about. So on our high level, we had groups from that meetup session that we did, meetup.com we were looking at, which had groups in. I think we're not gonna go in that direction because we want people. So that was this original suggestion of like, we could build a register your interest for a simple app. I think I'm gonna just move that down as a concept because it was quite limiting. It just wasn't as complicated, which actually would have been better for a simple application, but let's go with the complexity. So we want events to be the first thing, I think. So they then have orders in Eventbrite. It would be interesting to see, like, I think the wording we had used was bookings or something like that, like a synonym for that. Because when you want to find a person in there, so if I go inside orders, do I just get a search field? Order number, email, or name? And if I've got a group booking for 3 people, so one order would show me 3 people. So let's go make another booking for multiple people. I'm going to register. I'm going to join. Same team I've already got. 3 people. That's presumably going to give me a long form. Yeah, so I have built this before. This is like copy from other people. This is copy data from another attendee. One, and then we'll just do let's do max 2 and max 3, and then they can be ticket 1. I have loads of emails when I go back to this account now, which I never look at, but ticket 3. Actually, yeah, so we've got max 1, max 2, max 3. Okay, so they will have first names. Let's add numbers to these surnames as well, just so that we can see them visually. Yeah, we are logged in as me. I don't think that matters. I just want to see how that actually appears in the UI there. So, and again, I'm thinking about this tab here. Am I able to search for all of the people across all of my bookings? Again, I suppose it doesn't matter really. So if I refresh this. So I now have 3 orders. This one has, so they then switch to attendees as a sub page of orders, or as a sub UI view attendee report. Okay, so I can only view attendees as a report rather than a high level, because the order is the key kind of resource object model, whatever it is that we're dealing with. Which is good because then like you can disassociate. So let's say like we'd paid £10 each. This would be $30. They might call up and complain. I say, well, we'll give you a 20% discount. I'm refunding the order. These 3 attendees will still be attending. They will still be using the inventory of 3 kind of like slots or units or whatever you want to call them. Okay, so if we go with events, I'm not against using booking actually. Like, I don't know if that's a British thing. Like, if you book, because I always think of an order as an e-commerce thing, whereas I think I've bought a ticket, registered a ticket, booked a ticket, but then the user never sees that. So orders is just as good. What did Meetup use? Look at that. I know they used RSVPs as like the thing. So boards, comments, events, groups, photos, premises, profiles. What's some other ones that never remember? Eventbrite. What? Oh, event. Every time I search this, there's like 10 gajillion of these things. Again, that's why I quite like it as a problem space, because there's just so many ways to solve this problem. Yeah. Event ticket booking APIs. Let's see what this API docs, browse docs. Just looking for wording that we can use. So change events, ticket types, recurring events, maybe order. So they've gone with order as well. Create an order, fetch order, update order. Okay. Recurring events, event categories. They've then gone with ticket for. Yeah, so where's the Eventbrite API? Yeah, so I don't think there is a ticket. Yeah, so you get the attendee who is the ticket holder. Within the order, you then have. Do you get a list of attendees within an order? Event, yeah, okay, so you then get attendees. You don't actually get tickets within an order, you get attendees within an order. Whereas on this other one, you seem to get. We have an order. Fetch an order, what comes back? tickets. Oh my god, this is such a good example of like how different you can make this. Like, no even mention of like, is the word attendee on here? Nope. It's so good. It's describing exactly the same thing, and some of the words just aren't even used. So good. Okay, cool. So you really are okay. So we can really pick here. So orders kind of make sense, and then like attendees or tickets. I have to say I like attendees because it's the person you care about. Like you've sold 3 tickets, but they're 3 people coming to your thing, I guess. So I do like attendees. So we've got but you could have people rather than attendees. But then people might be too generic, I guess. So events, orders, reports. So the argument, what they were doing here is there was nothing other than marketing, which was across all of them. This minimal navigation at the high level does really feel like it's actually pretty strong, and it feels like product managers were like, right, what 3 things do event organizers care about? Because you could have reports here or reporting across all of your events, and this I think would be a pretty logical place to put it. But if you actually care about that, you're probably willing to dive in and go looking for it. Like I'm assuming that exists within Eventbrite somewhere, like cross event reporting, or maybe I'm not on a super mega paid account where that's available. Just see if there's like Eventbrite report across multiple events. Not really concentrating on my typing. Go to your manage page, go to events reports. Here we go. Go to event. Oh, then select your event. Go to event reports and choose a report type. This article, you can combine report data and see sales multiple events. From your events manage page, go to reports and select event reports. Then you show events. Okay, this article discusses a feature only for event professional and premium organizers. Okay, so you got to have fancy pants stuff. Professional and premium. So I'm guessing I have to pay like a different amount for the yeah. Okay, so holy crap, that's a hell of a jump. 3.5% to 6.5% for all of that sweet stuff. Cool. Okay, that's fair enough. So I don't know if we want to events people. So let's say events, orders, and then they've put like their calendar and stuff under events. So you're diving in. Let's ditch everything else for now on the highest level, and let's just focus on those 2 things till we know what we're doing. And I think we'll come back and bump some font size up, because why is everything so tiny these days? Like it's very small. I mean, I guess the good thing is it's responsive, so you can zoom in, but that just seems because it's got a lot of spacing. Give me an extra pixel. It's my aging eyes. Okay, so we're in here. So events then takes us to events where we then have our list of events. Yeah, fine. Like there's never going to be any need for that to be any more complex than show me a list of events to which I have access, I can edit, or I can report on. And that will change based on your organization. You might, so let's say you belong to your local charity and your local, I don't know, book club or something like that. You might see all of the events listed there for each organization, or maybe you are, so like, what is that scoped to here? Organization settings. So maybe that's scoped to the organization that you're logged in as or something like that. But either way, that's fine, because it's only ever just going to be this list of things. And we can add a bunch of information in here. There's different components, but that's fine. And there would be a search doodad. I mean, it can't be that different to what they have here. It's like, show me between different dates. Yeah. Like they don't even bother to give you between 2 dates. They're just like, here's a big list, presumably because they're yours. also how many people are like if you have hundreds of events, its odds are that most of them have happened, and you probably are only diving into there to go to a really specific one. A calendar view of those. That's kind of straightforward. Cool. Okay. So then this one, when you actually dive into the event, becomes the more complicated one. They then go to this nav on the left and remove this one up here. Let's go into our event. Right, okay. So we can... again, we could... I just don't know how much I really want to dive into the coding. So what, we've got Tailwind on here. So like Tailwind accordion UI. Oh, damn, that's ugly. Okay, fair enough. We don't... But does it come with a... let's see if there's anything on that Tailwind UI site, because that might be... they had a bunch of... I guess it would be navigation, wouldn't it? They might have one there. Application UI, headings, display lists, forms, navigation, sidebar nav. Expandable sections, yeah, so it's that. Get the code. This is one of the ones we have to pay for. We've got to go and build our own. Okay, let's build one. We'll do some code for a little while. That'll be kind of take us out of just thinking about UI stuff. Let's do some code. Let's... What would it be called? We would call it like no. What did they call it? Gotta stop doing these things on Sunday mornings. With secondary, okay. We call it sidebar navigation. Yeah, fine. Fine. Are we adding component to tell ourselves that it's a component, or is that actually part of the naming strategy of view component? I genuinely can't remember from last week. So there's the template, and there is the file freebie, and then we want just a SAS file. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I can't remember any of the semantic stuff for the nav element. Like, is it just every link within the nav it then knows? Like, I don't know if there's any accessibility stuff around that, but again, we're prototyping, so we're not going to worry too much about that. And for the component, then we would... Yeah, so we could put we could do it as BEM with like a BEM CSS syntax with the name of the component as the class names. That's kind of where we were heading last week. So let's try this. And this is as a potential alternative to using Tailwind. I get the argument for Tailwind, but I also have to keep learning the API, which I already have to keep going looking up the CSS API. So I'm basically just teaching myself an abstraction, which if I jump to another site, I then have to unlearn, I guess. So Is it like a hot pink keyword? Because that would be cooler. Ah. Oh, there is. Amazing. Yeah, that was a genuine guess. Okay, so then we have the sidebar nav. So when we're looking at an event, can we go and chuck this in? So then let's say we want admin event, render event nav, but also what we can do in here is again render sidebar. I'm trying to remember how to do this from last week. Is it just a class name like that? Component.new? It doesn't sound right. No. Sidebar navigation component. That was optimistic. How did we actually render some of the other ones? The events had one, didn't it? The index had one. Oh, that is what we did. Admin event list component. Oh, do I have to? Oh, I have to instantiate. I have to create the class. The component, right? Okay, so this is the one we've just typed out somewhere. I'm just closing a bunch of stuff in my editor that we don't need. This one, okay, sidebar navigation component, check the spelling. Navigation component. And what does that inherit from then? App view component? I need that. And I need view component base, right? Okay. And that's it. Just looking at the other ones, just checking. Do I have to have an initialize? If they don't have any information in, do I need that? I don't think so. Seems to be struggling. Oh, have I got a typo somewhere? Like, is that sidebar nav component? Oh, I've put navigation component. Okay. There we go. Oh, morning, Finian. Oh, in the chat. Finian, it's late where you are. Worry about you not getting enough sleep. Sidebar nav, sidebar nav component. Good morning or good evening. Finian, whatever time it is where you are. But it's good evening for you. Sidebar nav component. And then where it actually renders out, we need to be sidebar nav component. Nothing happening when I'm hitting refresh here. What's going on? Is my server? Oh, is that still going? Okay. That's really long time. That seems like a very long time to me. I think it's the Tailwind stuff. Okay, so we now have this. And it really feels like this is the right time to try and use the CSS Grid API to do the page layout, but I haven't really delved into it very deeply, but it feels like that's what I'm supposed to be doing, where there would be a grid with one row on the left and then everything else on the right, rather than just making it a flex box container. Because then all of the pages that have the sidebar nav would use this. Maybe that's my homework or something we look at next week, because I just feel like that's what we should be doing, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. Just for time's sake, really. So what do we actually care about with this thing? We care about it being... maybe even sidebar nav isn't right. So we could... in Eventbrite, what they did was they had the persistent nav on the left for wider viewports, and then when you collapsed the viewport down and made it narrower, the toggle brought the entire menu over, I think. Is that what happened? Yeah, okay. What happens if it's really narrow? Does it fill your screen? Yeah, okay. Is that good? I don't know, it adds, it actually covers the... Is that good? I suppose I was thinking, it's so long, I don't really know if there's another option. I was thinking, could you maybe have it so that the menu pops to the top, and then you could then view the menu while also viewing your content? Let's say there was a search in here. I guess it just defines how your menu appears on mobile, defines what you put in that menu. So like there's no search bar you can type into or anything on here, because you might be referencing information on the screen behind it. Like, hey, I want to search for Bob Smith, who's got a really long surname, therefore he wouldn't be Smith. But if you hide it, you can't then reference it and check the spelling to search for him. Okay. Interested to go into loads more. I haven't really done that exercise for a while, of going into loads of admin UIs on mobile and seeing what they do. I bet it's all over the shop like it used to be. I bet it's still really different. All right, let's just make this one work for now. So let's say yeah, because that never collapses, does it? It actually, that one never changes width. It simply hides, or yeah, it just hides. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. So let's set its width. It's like, I don't know, pretty big for now because we can see it. And then see, what in my mind, that's a component itself, but then each accordion might then be its own component as well. So that is the entire BEM syntax for that thing. In reality, like, you could then have, like, previously what I might have done would be this, and then like heading, or I don't know, like top level nav or whatever. I don't know, whatever, because that is that's an element within that block for that, just for that CSS syntax. Oh, here we go. Finian's, you can use bin Webpack Dev Server in another tab to speed up significantly. Ah, see, this is the good stuff. See, okay, this is what I'm missing. So if I put this in another tab, bin Webpack Dev Server. Amazing. So now if I do stuff, let's speed up, right, that might just have saved loads of time and everyone's staring at stuff. Okay, well, with that in mind, so is the assumption that I then would create everything else as another component, and then we could namespace them out. So would I have sidebar, nav, accordion component? Because the nav is only the full container that would run down the side of the screen. Or would I have a generic accordion component that I would then customize for use there. Presumably not, because it's going to be so specific, that use case. And therefore I don't need any more CSS for that, because that's just the container. Yeah, maybe I'm doing this completely wrong. So let's say we then have sidebar nav. Let's just call them lists rather than accordion. And then you could have list items within that. So the top item on the list is either a link or it opens, but if it has children components, if it has list items, it is a toggle or an accordion, and if it doesn't, it's just a link. And that component can know the logic for that. And then maybe you can pass this component an array of links. So like depending on the role that the user has, it would have a different array of pages it could get to. Okay, maybe this is stupid, but let's just kind of, we're both prototyping and working out how to use view component. And we have to instantiate, oh, not instantiate, but like have the stuff. Create the class, this one. Oh, because I just copied the wrong thing. Okay, that can just be nothing. That's this one. Sidebar nav. List component. And then in here, this isn't nav. This is then just, well, this would then have some logic in it based on what had been passed. But let's for now assume that they're all. Let's just hard code it for now. A list item, I guess, like a list. But we wouldn't have. Let's just hard code one so we can see it on the screen. But this would actually just render a list of children sidebar nav list item components. List item and this would have a class sidebar nav list like that. And let's just give it so we can actually see it. Let's just give it a border color or something just so we can check that. We don't really care what it's doing right now. It can just be green. And then do we have to have defined that one can accept the other, or can we just do this? Have list component. We don't. Does this work? I'm not checking any docs. I'm just trying that. Got green. Have we got green and pink, and the border from one is overriding the other one? Can we do one as I've lost my hot pink. Here we go. We do outline, I think, is probably better than border, because I think outline. There we go. We got pink and green. And our pink is outside our green. Okay, great. Where is our text in there? What did I just do? A view source. Oh, I'm in Chrome. Oh, okay, right. I totally weirded myself out then. I thought I was in Safari. Where's our list item text? Sidebar nav. That hasn't rendered out any. Wait, what? I think I was broken. Sidebar nav component new. Sidebar nav. component. What did I just break? Render sidebar nav component new. No such file or directory. Oh, HTML underscore copy. Yeah, I just moved it, but that was the wrong name anyway. Wait, why is it asking for underscore copy HTML? That's wrong. Is that this server thingy? Wait, what? The error says no such file or directory, sidebar underscore navcommand.html underscore or space copy.erb. But why is it asking probs restart browser? Yeah, like, I think something's got hold of the wrong path there. I've restarted this one and now we're going to restart this one. So hopefully. Great. Okay, cool. So have we now got our content in here? So we've got sidebar nav. That's our pink. And we've got our green. Which comes... no, we don't. They're not rendering out because I forgot to rename that. So that should be gone. Oh, okay, so this does hot reloads as well with that server running. Okay, cool. So it's faster and does the reload. Okay, great. That's super useful. Thank you, Finian, for putting me into that one. Okay, so this is not rendering out. So that's obviously me not remembering how to actually render out these components within each other. So let's just check that that is actually spitting anything out. So if we put one under the other, this work? Yes. Okay. So you don't just call render inside the other. You have to, well, let's go take a look at what you have to do. I think you need to use content helper to render components within each other. Okay. So Finian's put a link in the chat as well. I'm just gonna head over there as well as building components. He's put guide getting started. Component module names are plural, so for control and jobs use users, avatar components. I think you need to use content helper, so content passed to a view component as a block is captured and assigned to the content accessor. Oh, so I have to spit that out as do hello world, but I have to put this in the component, the parent component. And the one that is the parent component is sidebar nav. So in here, this would exist. And then move this back inside here. Great. Okay, so now we have is that legit? Like, is what we're doing there the way we're supposed to be doing this? It's like using props children in React. But there's thinking like in React. Oh god, I can't believe I'm thinking about React on a Sunday morning. So in React there is like a best practice thought of not just passing a crap ton of information down. Like if you can deconstruct it out and just give a component what it needs, do that. But then I suppose that's only because you're just like passing shit tons of stuff to something you have to store in memory on the client side. That's not a problem here because we're rendering it out before passing it back. So who cares? So I'm assuming it's fine, quote unquote, fine to do that as nested as we want it. So this could go, well, it's going to go. Okay, well, let's do another layer down then. So in here, like the same thing's going to happen. And I'm asking about that. Like I genuinely have no idea. I haven't used Vue components, so I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. I'm genuinely asking, is this good? Is this a good or bad thing? The sidebar nav list component now should also have the same thing that we did last week, which is we had an event list and we wanted it to produce we wanted it to okay, so we're going to do this type of thing where we actually iterate over it within this. Okay, this is good. I'm learning a lot here. Okay, I've been passing, so this is Finian on chat, I've been passing specific parameters around as my gut feeling is that Vue component should be done, but I don't have strong opinions on it yet. So this goes back to what we were looking at last week, which is when we had what was it called? It was called renders many behaved differently to like with collection, and with collection you could pass it an active record collection, and I think renders many just accepted an array of hashes that it then used the keys of those hashes in there, but I couldn't then seem to just pass it an active record object. No, maybe I didn't try passing an active record object because I haven't got any. Maybe I tried passing it an array of classes that didn't respond to toHash. So maybe active record classes would still work because I think they do respond to _h. So maybe they would work. Okay, so maybe renders, yeah, maybe it doesn't matter which one you do. I think that's just because I'm doing it prototyping way. I didn't happen to have a collection. So I just made an array of classes. Okay, that might be a thing. Right, let's get back to this. So this, we want to do sidebar. This is going to be as fun as the other one. List items. Sidebar nav list item, render sidebar nav list item. And then for each one, this will then use the sidebar nav list item component, and that component will need to have like the text of the link, the href of the link, is it the currently active page, any other like icons it needs to show or status or anything like that, and they would need to be represented in a collection that got passed to the sidebar nav list component. Okay, this is fun. It's not. Okay, so admin event list time. So this is really similar. Okay, but once you've got your head around it, it's basically the same gist as like React and all these other component-based things. Okay, so sidebar nav list component then would contain renders many event list items. No, it contains many sidebar nav list items. It's going to be, and only when you've got like a good volume can you then work out that your naming is really far off, and you can actually trim all these down. List item component. Sure. And then we want to do all of these again. Item component. And component. Okay. And then sidebar nav list item, and this one we can make blue. And a sidebar, this one actually does need some stuff. Oh, fuck it. It doesn't need stuff right now. Like we can just hard code one and they can all come out. So this doesn't need any of this. This could just be a link. Nothing. And just be called a link. Okay, and so it's not spitting out anything clever at all. So then when we render the view with these in, which is in event here, yeah. Oh, how did we do this? We actually put it inside this block, didn't we? This was in an index. Right, okay, so then we passed in from the block we passed the component in. I'm just gonna lift that in, so then this is for the component. And then this is the thing, so we said renders many. So this is I can't remember what I called it, sub nav list item, I think. List item. So in here it would be sub nav list items. And I don't think it, so these could be empty hashes, right? Because we're not asking, would this just render out 2 even though they're empty? Because it doesn't need any, it doesn't spit anything out. So undefined local for subbar nav list items for sidebar nav list item component. Nav. Undefined local variable or method sidebar nav list items for sidebar nav list component. Close some of this crap down. I got too much open. Sidebar nav list, sidebar nav list items. Let's sidebar nav list item component. Yep, that's named the same thing. Is that a case of restarting the server as well? I'm more than willing to admit there could be a complete cock up in there, but I was just thinking, like, is it a case where it hasn't recognized that I'm trying to give it a collection of things? Hopefully that'll come back with the same error. Okay, that's a fun little quirk. Okay, so you got to restart the server to check that things aren't completely broken. Okay, so what's happening here? Because again, this could all go away like that. So in event nav, that could kind of all get abstracted away. And what we could, so we could pass like a multi-dimensional array into sidebar nav component and just have it handle everything in here. Like we wouldn't need to render this out, for example. This could render many of those, and they could render many of those. Like that, this could all be handled in this component, I'm guessing. Like we don't need to do this in this view. So in here, if we do something like, just call it text or yeah, text is fine. Link 1. And let's just put the other one as link 2. And then in here, way too many things open. Again, just keep trying to close everything. In the actual list item component here, we can put text. Would that work? But we haven't set the property on the on the component itself. Okay, so there's loads of steps you have to think through, but that's fine. So here we would then have just set a default value in there just so it's set, and then text would be text. And will it infer that as a property, or do I have to put the @ symbol in? No. So do I actually have to do that? Okay. So link 1 and link 2. Okay, cool. And then the hrefs, I could do the same thing. And that could come down the left-hand side. Okay, so let's, all we'll do is we'll just get this running down the left and then we'll wrap this up because we've been going a long time. We covered a lot today. Like I thought it was super useful. Like I think focusing on these groups registration side of things is an interesting niche to look at. It's an interesting modeling problem. So we'll pull these things into this left-hand menu, but I think what we will do is see if when you go into the event, we can just go straight to effectively like managing the attendees and maybe swap around. Again, what does that multi-million-dollar company with 4 gajillion product managers and research know? We'll just swap their order around. But if you're focusing on the group side of things, and that's obviously not something they do very commonly. So we want this to run down the left-hand side. So we can say, but we haven't set the grid up. So do we need to set? Yeah, really. Okay, so next, let's defer that. We'll do that next time. I'm hoping it's not an entire week away, but I think there's just a lot going on here, so maybe it will be. But I am interested in just looking at using that CSS grid layout for page layouts because I think that could be really interesting. Because if we do something like we make that, does the CSS grid stuff work on like a layout like that? Is that how they're doing theirs? I just haven't used this yet. I haven't done any front end stuff for more than way too long. So I'm just looking through like what this. So they have to position it absolute to get it to go in and out, I would assume. On mobile, that'll just be controlled with some toggle. And then other than that, yeah, okay, so is that position static? I'm just checking if that's like, what's the difference between relative and static? The element is positioned according to normal flow document. This is the default value. Okay. Just seeing if it was relative to itself based on. Okay, fair enough. All right, so if we then here, so like what height does that have set? Sorry if this is really obvious stuff. It's just been a while since I've done anything like this. Like what container is that in? Oh, I see. Okay, so the page body, the class of body, not the actual page body that it's in, is a flex container with a height of 100, and that's why it has a height of 100. So they're using flex for the page layout, not grid. And I don't know the pros and cons of why you would use one and not the other. So we could have here, I guess. Again, it probably wouldn't go within main. You could be like oh man. This is why learning Tailwind seems so much to me. Like remembering all the CSS syntax is like a whole like full-time fucking job. So what was the rest of it? Display flex, height 100. Does width get you there as well? So let's just do outline as well for that, and we let's call this one red. So does that then get us a page? It's like that. Display flex height 100, width 100. But we want everything inside. We only want 2 divs inside that to be a column, 1 to be the sidebar, and then 1 to be everything else. So that's 1. No. Fine, let's make it purple. Okay, because we are not setting the actual width of it. Cool. Okay, so that is full width, and why is it not full height? Is it because that has to go as the highest level underneath body? Does body have to have some sort of height set? Oh man. This is where using like one of those libraries gets you so much for free. So does body have to have? No? Okay. So why does that not get you oh, okay, so that's height 100, but it doesn't fill 100% of the screen because the content has to be long enough for that. God, it's been a while since I've done anything of this stuff. Does it have to have its display type set? No. Okay, I always feel like there's like a reset or whatever those things are. Like normalize and stuff like that. Okay, we've kind of got enough going on here. So this could then That's 1 and that's 2. So this first one is our first child within that Flexbox container. And then this one is our second one. Is that right? Yep. Okay. So that is, and that is just too wide. I see. And then this could be, say, 250 or a percentage or whatever it is. And then kind of interested as to why that's not 100%. I'm bound to have missed something super basic. Does this have to be height 100%? Man, okay, so HTML has to be 100% as well. Yeah, it'd really been a while since I've done any front end stuff and I'd forgotten what interminable process is. Okay. And again, I'm just doing prototype stuff, so we're just chucking style tags around the place because why not? Okay, so this is now our full left nav stuff, and we would encapsulate that a bit more normally. That then gives us this, and within that, we then would have... Yeah, it'd be cool to have like a little filter in VS Code for your components directory. Like maybe having them as sidebars isn't amazing, but it'd be cool to have like just view the CSS, just view the HTML, just view the Ruby files. I know you can do that in Find, but it'd be cool to have like keyboard shortcuts for that. I'm sure there's a way to do that in VS Code because you can do everything. Oh, funny. Oh, sorry, I didn't spot you in the chat there. Might need to set it on the HTML tag too. Sorry, I did get there eventually. Sorry, I was deep being an idiot while I didn't figure that out. All right, so we want to then on our sidebar nav component, this is flex, but this is going to be, and this would obviously need to be more complex because it would be, there'd be other stuff going on in that sidebar, I bet, but you would then have flex direction, row, that a thing? Xbox. Play flex direction row, so everything in there would then become and that would then be the same for the list component, which would also be display flex direction row. So is this gonna hot? Okay, yes it is. It's gonna hot change now. And that contains those two. I've already forgotten the hierarchy of this. Oh my god, I had forgotten the tedium of front-end development. Okay, then the sidebar nav list. And is it because these are then not block level elements? Do they then need to be inside divs? I don't know if that's the case or not, because I don't know how Flexbox works. But does that then put these on their own line? Yes, okay. And then this pink one wants to be full height, I guess, and then you could set them in the middle rather than having them at the top. That's interesting. So why have they suddenly broken? Oh, they've suddenly re-rendered themselves. Is this resetting the server doodad again. I think there's a lot of cool caching going on, and I think a lot of it might be a bit fiddly. And then every time you reset, it has to rebuild the cache, I'm guessing. Oh no, okay. They're just not rendering. Did I not just put... Which ones did I put the div around then? Oh. Wait, what? Did I just fuck that up and put them in the wrong place? So the side... That's weird. Because it fixed the problem. I'm not sure what just happened there. I think I definitely cocked something up. But I wanted to see if these being... No, okay, I've definitely missed something there. So they now work that way. And the green one, which is this one, needs to have its width set to go all the way across. But that doesn't... Wait, but they shouldn't be. That should be flex direction column for the things in there, but they should also be full width. Okay, I'm totally screwing this up. So they should be blue, but they should also be width. 100%, they go all the way across. Sidebar now, list item, 100%. But they also would then be display flex in order to do that. I think I keep hitting refresh out of muscle memory, but I don't think I need to. Maybe I do need to. Oh, because the class is now on the... I don't think I did need that div in that case. So why are these not showing us? This is just an exercise in watching me fuck up using... So I've said that this is a display flex. I want the flex direction as a row. Oh, wait, did I mean column? I meant column. I meant... Right. Sorry. It's very frustrating for people who do CSS all the time to watch me do this, but I'll get there in the end. Okay, great. So now we have links that take us places and we can set those and do stuff with them. So in here... See, I don't feel like... I don't feel constrained. Like, I would have to have known all of that stuff using Tailwind anyway. Like, other than using the pre-made templates, I would still have had to know enough CSS to get me to this anyway, unless I use that Tailwind UI. Like, it doesn't get me anything other than the component-based CSS. And like, yeah, maybe I'm not spitting out as many of these, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like a huge... Yeah, I guess it'd be interesting to see where the tipping point came in terms of how much CSS was being spat out that was really losing or gaining. Okay, so let's just finish this off by moving our nav then and doing what we came here to do down the left-hand side. So we had views, event, we had event nav, so that can go on this side. And then on here we then had some place where we... Oh, we actually rendered it in the view, didn't we? here. So then we can have, so overview. So this then became, these are the Eventbrite ones. These aren't ours. So this was order options, marketing, and these would be like accordions. Manage attendees, reports, apps. Privacy settings, and the settings was me leaving that on there. I think I was just seeing how long it could get previously. So let's see what we now have. Okay, so let's add a little spacing on here. Get ourselves some snazzy. And again, in terms of like the consistencies of spacing and things like that, like doing width 2 and width 4 and stuff like that, like presumably those are all just CSS variables if you're not using Tailwind. So here we might have nav list item component. We might want to say that we have some padding, and we do like well, for now, let's say we put in 10. Let's say we put in 20 pixels, 10 pixels. That'll do top and bottom and then left and right. But these should be like -2. We could still have like variables that were, because they're always the same, aren't they? Right? It could be like 2x or whatever value. That's CSS variables, right? The dollar sign, the hash. Something you get them in CSS. That would still give you the same numbering thing. I'm still ambivalent about Tailwind, and I'm trying to work out where my good and bad points would come. Okay, cool. So this then gives us, let's pull out some of these borders, which are only, actually, let's just comment them out because they'll be really helpful next week when I can't remember anything. And we can start to see what we've got. Okay. Where's the red one from? That's like our actual page, isn't it? Oh no, that's the purple one. That can go as well. Okay, it's gone. Okay, cool. So now we've kind of replicated the Eventbrite settings on the left. But we could... So you could keep both and have... Oh no, because the issue is that these are so wide that you then have to collapse them really early on mobile. Whereas at least with this one, you're always showing and hiding everything. And you keep this one short to then prevent yourself having to collapse it all the time on the phone. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So we could then just swap these around. So you could have, because we then haven't got the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is there. So order options would be like in settings. But you could even visually separate this out. Like manage attendees could be a section of this menu, and then manage event could be the other section, and then all of the order options and privacy settings and stuff could go in there. Like you could have, what do I mean by that? So let's pull manage attendees up to the top. Oh yeah, I see. Okay, I've screwed myself over because I haven't given myself a little... Oh my god, would that even be another component? Would like, or that could be... That could be another type of nav list item. It could be called like subheader or something like that. I'm imagining... let's just do it in the browser. I'm I'll refresh this. They should. So I'm imagining something like. Oh, it could be the top of the nav list. Okay, so the nav list could have a property called title or subtitle, and then they could be separate lists. So then in here, you could then have a little, it would be a heading or something like that. And font size. Small. Is it like letter spacing, text spacing? And then that is event. Oh, I've already said it on there, so it could be event or manage your I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Well, attendee, it wouldn't then work if it had manage attendees as the one underneath. Oh, I see. That's actually got to be within here, I guess. Okay, well, you would fix it because it looks like shit, but... But it wouldn't have the... top. That would be 10 as well. Yeah, you kind of figure it out. You get where I'm going with this, I guess. And then... So they could be subsectioned. So then you wouldn't... You could have then 1, 2, 3, 4 things within there, and then manager event could be further down. So then you wouldn't need to have... this idea of putting everything in settings. You could have manager attendees. Here are 3 things to do that. Manager event. Here's 3 things to do that. And again, you could call it not manage. You could be like indicate in the nav what the purpose of the pages were. So it could be like who's coming or something like that. And then you could be like manage attendees. Like this could all be called like people, I guess, or and have a little icon or something like that. Or, I don't know. I guess that's where I'm going. And then that then gets us to the point that because groups are so important for the application we're building, you could then have manage attendees. So instead of manage attendees, where you could just have attendees, I guess. Then you could have groups. And again, maybe that changes its name depending on if the event has teams or something like that. I think probably not. Maybe we just don't have the concept of meetups from groups. Then market. Can I copy and paste that? Oh, yes, I can, but it's gone inside the other one. Amazing. Can I lift this one out? Oh, man, DevTools is so good these days. I just want to put it above marketing. Go back up. Go back up. Here we go. Just want to pop it above marketing there. So instead of people here, we would have like promote. It could be promote or something like that. And then this could be marketing. And just do duplicate element. Yes, that's amazing. Oh my god, this is such a good prototyping tool. But now I just want that to be back there. Then promote, it could be, and then have like analyze or something like that. Oops, not with a Z because we're not in the US. then that could be reporting and apps, and then privacy is always super important. So that could come under. But then manage could be another one. Duplicate element. Maybe that comes further up. Update event, or like manage event or something like that. And then in here you have settings. But instead of settings, it's whatever. What did they have? They had like tickets, basic info, details, tickets, and publish. I think basic info and details probably don't need to be separated out. They're probably good for the onboarding, I would guess. So you could have, let's do a bunch of these. So duplicate. And so this one would be event details, ticket settings. Again, settings sucks as a word. Ticket settings, and then what else do they have? Publish. That's obviously something common that people want to do, is turn the event on and off. But that could all go under event details. Could then break down because you still got loads of stuff in here. That could also be like order settings or something like that. What do they call theirs? Order options. So maybe options is better than settings or something like that. So the logic being is the first thing that you really care about is who's coming. Yeah, so where's orders within the event? There's no orders in the top level. That's interesting. I know we're kind of running over. This is super long. I'm really into this. This is like, so item sold. But it's interesting that that's not on that top level. If you click tickets, does that take you to the tickets sold? Or just to manage the tickets? No, it's just to manage. So in here, there isn't really a show me the attendees until you get to manage attendees, which has orders within it. There's not like a high level one that's just like show me the people. So then orders could live within this top one. Oops. Duplicate. That could be orders, could be this one. That's under manage attendees on theirs. Orders, attendees, and groups. So people like who's attending the event, promote the event, update the event, analyze what's happening, and then privacy could have its own one personally. Okay, that's super cool. Okay, that's a good model, I think. Like, I don't know if it's good. Actually, I have no idea if it's good, but it's a reasonable set of assumptions that I think people could kind of work their way through. And so let's leave that there because we've been running for a really long time. But we have looked at another UI and looked at it all the way through from beginning to end. We're like building an event. That's the Eventbrite UI. We looked at a couple of other APIs for the language and things like that. We then dove into building some more stuff in Vue Component. Looked at some things that may or may not be good and bad in that. Some CSS stuff, which helps us look at whether we like Tailwind or not, and what are the pros and cons of leaving it out. And then we ended up with some UI that we have as a prototype for navigation, which then will help us set our modeling and work out how we're actually going to structure the thing to build this kind of prototype where we can build an initial, we had said we were going to build an initial register my attendance event, but I think actually building a cool group registration event might be more complicated and a bit more fun. Yeah, so thank you very much for everyone who stuck around. Thank you to Finian for helping me out with a bunch of stuff in the chat. And thanks to everyone who has subscribed recently. I know there's a few more people. I will promote the Twitch channel a bit more once I work out how. And yeah, if I don't see you beforehand, I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful week and enjoy your summer or winter, depending on where you are in the world.